Good Monday morning, everybody. I am Angie Callen, your host of No More Mondays, the show where we believe humans still matter, mediocrity is expensive, and ownership changes everything. And today's conversation kind of aligns with all three of these because this is something we usually only touch on at the beginning of the year. Yet here we are halfway through the year, and it seems like a great time to talk about the G word, goals. And I have brought you the expert. Today, I am joined by Julie Ellis. She's an entrepreneur, speaker, leadership coach, and author of Big, Gorgeous Goals. So I have brought you the right person to talk about the right thing at the right time as you look back on how far you are or are not on those New Year's resolutions and goals to know you still have time. So let's dig into goals, ambitions, and maybe even what happens when you meet one goal and need to set the next. Julie, welcome to No More Mondays.
Thanks, Angie, so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am excited. And for those of you that are regular listeners, Mom, Julie is part of the Unconference family, which is always so much fun to have these conversations with people. I've actually gotten to kind of do this with in person too. And Julie is one of these, I love triangulating things around here on No More Mondays because Julie comes up to me at the Unconference and looks at me and basically goes, Chris Kelso. And I'm like, huh? Because he was a total disconnect to the location that we were. But for those of you that are longtime No More Mondays listeners know, he is one of our most popular episodes on imposter syndrome. And here, Julie and I are two people who both know him personally. So that was a really fun, like extra way. I'm so glad you connected the dots and glad you're here now too.
Well, it was so fun to go to a conference with 100 people and have a friend text me and say, you need to look for Angie because you just don't really expect that when you're going to a really small event.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, Julie is one of our favorite Canucks. And I'm in Colorado and Chris is in Tennessee and the event was in Florida. And so like, also it's like seemingly random, but the world is a lot smaller than we like to admit it is.
It really is, isn't it? It really is.
And I love this timing. This was actually a happy accident that we are like almost within a day in the middle of the year. And you have really built like a whole philosophy around what it means to set real goals. And real is a tricky word, but big, gorgeous goals. And love the name because it really does feel, and it is bigger than the quarterly objective, the KPI, the to-do list. So talk to us about what it actually means to have a big, gorgeous goal versus maybe just a to-do list.
Yeah, or even a SMART goal. And I think like both SMART goals and to-do lists have a place in the goal setting ecosystem. But if we only focus on those, we aren't thinking big enough. And that's where the big, gorgeous goal comes in. It's the thing where you don't know how you're going to get the money, the network, the skills, there's some big component that's missing that feels like a mystery and part of what you have to figure out when you want to chase a goal like that. You can come down after you look to the great big blue sky and figure out what that goal looks like. You can come down to needing to-do lists and SMART goals and maybe a spreadsheet. Everybody loves a good spreadsheet to like figure out your progress. But in the very beginning, you need to lift higher than that in order to really step into your own discomfort about how far you're pushing yourself.
And to me, it's really like aligned with vision. Because if you think about it, smart goals is it really a misnomer? Because a SMART goal at the end of the day is something that I would say you can achieve, and you're measuring the active pursuance of that goal. Versus this idea of like vision and going up to 30,000 feet and big, gorgeous goals. I love because it's kind of like set that aspiration that scares you. But I also love calling it a big, gorgeous goal instead of a big, hairy, audacious goal, because that already puts you into like scarcity mindset of it's so hairy and audacious, I can't do it, versus it's so gorgeous, I'm gonna.
Yeah. And the idea, like, we don't have to grind our way to them. Right? We want to find a rhythm of like dancing. I use the dancing metaphor a lot, but like you're going forward, you might go back a little bit because, things are hard, right? It's not like this straight arrow forward trajectory where you start and then you take 8 steps and then you get to something really big. These kind of goals can take like months or years even sometimes to accomplish. And we have to keep like to have a mechanism, I think, for calibrating them, because they are big and a little bit like amorphous in the beginning. We don't know everything about them. We need to have a process for look up at the goal, look down at the path that's right in front of us, take a few more steps, and then do a check-in.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody earlier today who said something I love. And that was that, at some point, this person had done a vision board. I'm going to say it's a vision board. She called it a flip chart. And she said, it took me 8 years and I finally got everything on my flip chart. And that's what we're talking about here, is that like, this isn't necessarily something you're going to get overnight. And also the success or the reaching of it may look differently than you originally think. But I'm curious, in your opinion, observations, and even research in like writing this book, why do you think people struggle with this so much?
I think that there are like some fundamental skill sets that come into this kind of goal setting. One of them is definitely delegation. I think entrepreneurs in particular, we think that no one can do it as well as we can. And we've all had that experience where we're like, okay, can you do this, do X, Y, and Z for me? And then they come back and they didn't do it the way you wanted. And you have I should have just done it myself, right? And even in ways where we know we need to delegate things, every now and then I sit down, I'm like, why am I holding on to this? Because I'm becoming the roadblock, right? We become the roadblock. And the people who do really big things talk about how they use people, systems, and processes to get to where they want to go. And so it really is about like building leverage underneath you as an entrepreneur once you set a really big goal. Rallying, you got to rally the people around and get the team thinking boldly. And then you've got to give them the work and let them run with it.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And that is a very good leadership example. And I love it. I want to take a segue over to life for a second.
For sure.
Because I think, tell me if you agree or modify as you would like, that a lot of people think they're reaching or they're trying to work towards a big, gorgeous goal, but it actually might not be their own. It's something that was either inherited, or it's an expectation more so than it is an actual goal. And so I think so I see that in life quite a lot, but I think it can happen in either life, leadership, business, or professional. We start climbing a ladder we maybe didn't consciously try to climb, or reaching towards something we tried to climb. So how do we avoid that, or how do we know if we're doing it?
I think it's about creating space. I think in both cases, like the example I use, but also personally, it's about creating some space. Like we live these lives that are full. They're busy. We fill every 5 minutes with something, and we are proud of our busyness in a lot of ways.
It is a badge of honor.
It really is, right? Nobody has their kids in more things than me, or, all the things that go with that, right? Or does more than me, or the things we value ourselves on are often related to being busy. And in order to really think about what we want, we have to create space. Like if I get lucky enough to go on an airplane, I want to sit in the window because I want to look out at the clouds. That to me is the kind of space where I get ideas. People talk about getting ideas in the shower. If you get out into nature, it's those places where like you're almost a little bored, or you're free of a screen, your brain starts to kind of turn over on things. And that's where ideas come from.
Yep. Yeah. We talk about that a lot around here, because it's one of my soapboxes is the like get outside, disconnect thing. There's a reason you come up with great ideas while driving a car, in a shower,
sitting on a plane
in the middle of the night when you wake up,
or riding the train or the bus and just idly looking out the window, right? I mean, those are the times when you like something, you see something, going to an art gallery. I even like, if I'm traveling for work, I'll go to a restaurant by myself and sit and just kind of watch. Like give me my back to the wall and let me watch the whole place go, because I find it, little things inspiring you. And until you like start actually looking, instead of spending 6 hours a day, I mean, touching your phone 1,000 times in a day, like some of the studies that say how much we we rely on our electronic lives, like we need to put all of that stuff down. It's good for our brains. It's good for us to have that space.
Yeah, disconnect in order to like reconnect with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's the distraction thing. And changing stimuli is a
Mhm.
huge component of it. But I find that one reason we either fall into the I have no goals trap, I have no vision trap, or I'm just going to work towards this goal that's really someone else's expectation is because we have failed to spend time with ourselves to know ourselves well enough to do it on our own. We just don't like being in our own heads
Mhm.
nowadays. But
Yes.
ultimately, you have something that you aspire to, even if it's subconscious, it's in there somewhere. And
Yes.
that space can help you start to understand it.
Yes. I think it also sometimes is that we are afraid to go for the thing we want the most. And that is sort of where the big gorgeous goal comes in, because you are like, you're pushing the envelope on what you think you're capable of, whether you know you can do something. Like, you're out there, you are putting yourself out there, and you've got to figure out how to, keep yourself moving and keep that, like, what is it that will bring you accountability? I mean, we're talking today, I was in a meeting today and we were talking about like why you get stuck. Like, I know this job takes me 10 minutes. Why am I so stuck on? And I've been stuck here for a week or 2 weeks, or, like, you can get stuck on silly things for a long time. What seems silly from the outside, they're not silly at that moment because you're really stuck on them. But I think we've got to find, with our big, gorgeous goals, we got to find that accountability that helps us keep moving.
We're not meant to do this alone is another great way to think about it. And
Yes.
really, the thing that scares you, like you said earlier, is probably the thing that you're meant to do. But I completely agree that we don't do it. We know we want it, we know what it is, but we don't do it out of fear of typically three things. Fear of failure, that's the most common one, and it is
Mhm.
rampant now because God forbid you fail. I like to think that failure, loosely translated, is just learning experience.
Yep.
Fear of judgment. If I say this thing I want to do to anybody who knows me, they're going to tell me why I'm dumb and why they think it's a bad
Yep.
idea. But then there's also this fear of success,
Oh,
which
totally.
I think is the really hidden one
Yes.
that people don't quite understand is sabotaging them. How has that looked in your experience?
I think it is attached to a lot of those like procrastination behaviors, right? The fear of actually killing it and knocking it out of the park is like a deep hidden fear. And people feel a lot of
Yeah.
shame about being afraid of that.
Yeah. And I also
If
think
I
it's like
didn't try
it's
it
almost like
all, go
a
ahead.
fear of change comes in there, right? Like if I succeed
100%.
at this thing, then I won't have what I did before, or I'll
Yeah.
have these other things, and then my friends might change, or my place might
Yep.
change, or something like
Yeah.
that. And so
The
it
who
really
am
comes down to that fundamental.
It does. It's that, like, who am I gonna be if I can actually do this?
But what
Mhm.
I think is so cool at the same time, and this is really where you sit, is who do I get to be?
Oh,
Not like what if, but like what if? Like what if this all worked out? And you're a great example because one of the things I love about your story is how this perspective on big gorgeous goals came, and it was really at a big time of substantial change for you and exiting a business ownership situation, and then trying to figure out what came next.
yep. Yeah, having a big success where you like, we started a business in children's labels, Mabel's Labels. We grew that. So we were doing direct to consumer e-commerce, short run variable printing. And we built that business to over 8 figures in revenue. We had 40 employees when we sold. And I didn't have a plan for what I might do after. My identity was so tangled up in that business. My business partners joked that I'd be the one who went in every day forever for the rest of my life, took up a boardroom, drank coffee, and told stories about the old days, and kind of got the like, oof, she's here wrecking productivity again. But instead, we sold the business and I was gone in 6 months, which was my choice. But I didn't really realize how it would destabilize my whole life. And it took me some amount of time to realize that it set me on a path of thinking really in a smaller kind of way. And
Mm.
then suddenly one day, you put your head up and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I did that, but now I'm here and I'm stuck and I don't want to be stuck. And so it just caused me to start having a real reflection about, why do some people get stuck and then they can never get out of it, and other people are just achieving these big things, and they move from one big thing to an even bigger thing to a bigger thing, and you see it happening. And I became very interested in what separated those people.
Okay, so what separated those people?
Honestly, it was the systems, people, and process. They knew they couldn't do it alone. So they put scaffolding and systems around themselves to help ensure their success. And that's where I come to, you got to tell someone about it. You've got to set up an accountability partner. You've got to, there's a lot of different ways. You have to figure out what works for you, but you have to tell it to, if you never tell it to anybody, does it actually exist? Right? Not that you have to go out and tell the whole world. We don't need to necessarily post it on our social media channels, but you've got to have that person, that partner who knows, and who's not going to be often it's not your family or your closest friends, because they're the ones that are a little more oh, really? Are you sure?
They're either going to have an opinion, or they're really not going to keep you on the hook.
Yeah, exactly. So you need someone who doesn't have an opinion about what you should do, who might ask you some really probing questions, but isn't going to say do it or don't do it. And they're going to give you that accountability and push. And, you can call them with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in that season, and maybe now reflecting on that season, what did you learn about success and fulfillment? Because I think this is integral to what really a big, gorgeous goal should be. Not to should all over everyone out there, but I'm curious what you've learned about those two important things that we elusively try to chase.
Yeah, I think it's success is really about, it's also I think a dance, right? You can't drive, we drove in Mabel's Labels, we drove really hard forward for a long time, and we were exacting of ourselves around, we missed that by 100K, we missed that, oh, we need to be better, and more, right? Grow the business bigger, come out with new products. It was just we were pretty relentless in that. And I think that my problem came when I needed to sit on a plateau and sort of rest, reconstitute myself, gather my thoughts, and figure out what was going to be really meaningful for me to chase in the next era. And so success doesn't always look like just driving for something all the time. Sometimes it looks like resting. Sometimes it looks like, contemplating. Sometimes it looks like walking away from something you thought you wanted for a long time. I mean, there's so many things that contribute to it, but I think, it's the more and bigger that we get caught in.
Oh, which ties us all the way back to what you said at the beginning, which is we are so caught up trying to win the busyness badge of honor, that it is actually the hindrance that keeps us from all of those things that are actually important to success and actually look like success. Everybody out there is rolling their eyes because they're like, Angie paid Julie to say rest is a requirement. We know she did. And it is because you ultimately, to me, grinding away until 62.5, I don't care how many dollars in your bank account, isn't successful because you missed out on all of life in the meantime.
Yeah. If you make it to 62.5.
If you make it. Right. And now you got bad knees, probably a bad back, and no idea of who you are and how you want to spend the time that you now have on your hands. So don't wait to figure those things out. Don't wait to set big goals, or at least know what direction or what ish you're kind of going to. And so I'm curious, and when you were in that transition, what clarity really came? What was the turning point?
The turning point was really that I wanted things. I wanted more out of my sort of goals. And, I didn't want that to be the peak. And I think one of the things that froze me was the idea that, in my early 40s, that the best thing I ever did was in the rearview mirror. And ultimately, I think that's what got me really tangled up, right? Is like well, what if the next thing I do isn't successful, doesn't make me a lot of money, doesn't like, what if, like all of the weight of my own expectations was actually crushing me.
Wow. So you were like shooting all over yourself.
Basically, yeah.
And what got you out of that mindset?
I started doing some consulting for somebody, and in the end, I went and ran his business for him. And so like I kind of had to just, buck up and go back. Like I went back to work, and it was a great experience, great business, great team, loved the people there. But after, as the 1 year mark kind of came and went, I was like, why am I building a business for somebody else? Like, what was it that, and I think that it got me off the couch because someone needed me. And so that was it was a really good step forward for me at that time. But then, you start to really figure out like, okay, so now I'm maybe understanding a little bit more about why I left after the acquisition. And now I'm understanding a little bit more about what I might want in the next stage.
And there's a few little things hidden in there I want to bring out. One, it took some sort of action. That action wasn't perfect and was not a direct line to the current big goal, the current sense of success and fulfillment, but it was in that you found some of the clarity. Sometimes knowing what you don't want to do or trying something and finding out it isn't what you want to do is the best thing you can do to then flipping the coin.
Yeah. And it could have been a should, like I should go run a business and use my skill set and right. I think we could also look at it that way. But it was a great opportunity that I don't regret in any way. So that's the whole piece of like, it is really part of the journey.
It is. And that's the big thing. And that actually dovetails back to the whole like fear of failure, right? Because if you had feared failure, you'd still be doing that job. We never met each other in Florida. And how now you'd be shitting all over yourself and not doing anything about it, right? It wasn't failure. It was information that helped make a more informed next step. And aren't we all grateful? Because now you get to help all of us do the same thing. So let's help some people out there that might feel stuck. What would you say to somebody out there who is looking at the fact that it's mid-year and they are way off the goal they set for even just this year?
I think it's time to shut down all the devices, put your phone down and get out into the world and think about where you are, where you started. And then I think it's like a process of just sitting down, and I like to do it in I'll like go to the library or go to a coffee shop or sit on a bench in front of the lake, something along those lines, but always with a piece of paper, not with a gadget. Even if I make a spreadsheet later or do something, the process to me of thinking about a goal and what the steps are has got to be an analog process, because otherwise
analog. I was hoping you were going to say that word because I totally agree. There is actually scientific proof of what your brain does when you write. It is a different type of wiring than when you speak or you type.
Yep. And then go put it in Asana, put it in an Excel sheet, put it in like whatever you use to actually do your day-to-day work. Awesome. Put it there. But I think you've got to do the disconnect to really think about it. And it is this place where if you think about a goal like a mountain, if you're climbing a mountain, the top looks really far away for a really long time. And so you have to have this mechanism where you look at the top, you look at where you've been, and then you're like, after a while, you can see you made progress, right? As you look back, but the top still looks far away. And so there's this illusion of being really far away and forgetting we've made progress. So we need to have that anchoring piece where we say, okay, here's the goal. Here's what I said I was going to do. Okay, I fell off my bike and it didn't happen, like here, let's get back on the bike. And so what are the things that I'm going to do? What are the next 3 to 5 steps? And when I'm done those 3 to 5 steps, first of all, who am I telling for accountability to help me try and stay on track? And second of all, like, is it a coach? Is it a mentor? Do you have an accountability partner, a mastermind? Like so many ways to be accountable. You don't have to pay for someone, but maybe that's what you need. You have to think about that too. And then you make your steps forward and you put your next date on the calendar. So 90 days from now, it's going to be time to sit down again and say, I said I was doing 4 things. How many of them did I do?
Yeah. So if you're going to do this in the middle of the year, because we are encouraging you to do it, don't wait till December 31st to see if it worked or not.
There's still, we've still got like 6 more months of the year to go and make progress, even if we haven't yet. And also, check in with yourself because, and maybe sometimes you're like, oh, I said I would do 5 things this 90 days and I'm like 45 days in and wow, I've done them
2.
all. Great. Yeah. Or I've done them all, or I haven't done any of them. Like there has to be a rhythm to it where you are checking in on things. And that's where I think taking them off the paper and putting them into the systems that work for you in terms of day-to-day thinking and task management has to happen. And it might mean, that you need to say no to things. We don't like saying no. We like, it's back to the busy comment, but we all can find time somehow to like binge watch a show or, some of the things that we do. And it's like, well, maybe I could watch one less episode and have that 40 minutes to work on this. Right. So it's like, it's making choices. It's saying
it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's all a choice.
You.
Yep. And if you have been doing the same thing for 6 months and you're not to the goal and you're not seeing traction or anything changing, change things, right? That's where change the stimuli, go analog and do something different to break the pattern. Now I want to go to the flip side. What happens with somebody that is totally tracking on their goal right now, mid through the year?
Well, I think it's a great time to sit down and look at all the tracking that's happening and look up to the big goal and say, okay, is this still, do I know anything more? Like if there were blank spots in there in the beginning because I didn't know things, have I filled any of those in? Am I getting closer? Do I need to calibrate? In my walking, did I veer to the right? And now I need to figure out how to get back on track. Or do I need to adjust the goal? Like there's the bigger calibration piece, I think, that comes in because there's like 0 point in your life in achieving a big goal because you wrote it down 3 years ago and you no longer want it.
Oh, now we get the follow-up episode on right versus wrong goal or right versus wrong motivation to a goal.
Yes. Right. Like, well, it's like, people go to college because they think their parents think they should. That's like a really common one. Right. Like somebody, it's the shoulds again, here we are. And you've got to figure out, there's a fine line, I think, of like leaving a goal behind or adjusting it so significantly it looks very different and dropping something because you're afraid of it. So there's a little bit of care, I would say, in that process of figuring it out, because we don't want to, fail because we don't want success. So you've got to be a little careful in how you go about that in like, what are the tests of, okay, if I shift it over here, what am I losing? Who's the trusted person I can bounce this with and make sure that it's not me running away from this goal?
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about, let's say, changing your environment and things that you can do to understand your relationship with your goals. It's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody does go do this. They go out, they listen to us, they take their little pen and paper, they leave their phone at home and they find a lovely mountain lake and they sit by it. What 3 questions would you tell them to ask themselves to get unstuck?
What's holding you back? What is it that's keeping me from actually wanting to do this? And that sends you down into, is the goal wrong? Am I failing in some way because I don't want to? What's the underlying? And I think that the questions have to drive you down deeper. I think, is this the right goal for me? Question. Is this still what I really want? And how, if the answer is yes, it's still what you really want, how are you going to get moving again? What's it going to take to get moving again?
I was silent for a split second because I needed to write all that down, y'all.
Yeah.
Sometimes these episodes are just as helpful for me as I hope they are for you. Yeah. Love it.
It can be hard to get moving again. You can get stuck for a good amount of time. And that's where it's like, even I think about, so I have a mastermind partner, and we've been meeting once or twice a month for a good amount of time, but we were both starting to feel stuck on some things. So we've been just doing Zoom meetups like for like 2-3 hours in the morning that we schedule, and we just knock off the stuff, right? Like you knock off the stuff you're putting off when you do those, or the things where you feel resistance. So it's like, okay, first hour we get on Zoom. What are you doing? What are you doing? Great, go. Come back at the end. Okay, how did you do? How now? What's up? You know, like it can be as guided as you need it to be in order to start to get moving.
And that goes back to don't do this alone. And what's cool about that is that's actually like what some people, they call it body doubling. There's all kinds of terminology terms for this. I host get shit done sessions where a bunch of coaches just come in and we all are on mute and we're staring into space, it looks like, but we're all just doing work. It's like forced accountability in some regard. And sometimes that's what we need in order to give ourselves the kick in the pants that we need to get stuck. And so what I'll add is I love the starting point of reflection questions. One thing, because fear was part of this conversation, is you can't fear what you find. Because there might be stuff there that is a hard thing to admit to yourself. You might have the wrong goal. You might be working towards somebody else's goal, right? You might be in the wrong place to ever even achieve the goal that you want. You can't fear what you might uncover. You just have to figure out then what to do with it.
Yes. And to figure out, I think, like when to like understand a little bit about yourself in terms of, is your accountability partner going to be enough for this? Are you going to need to actually get a coach at some point? Are you going to need a mentor, like somebody who's really going to, what are the different options? Because I think you need different people for different parts of your journey, and the same thing you've been doing, you may need to reevaluate and look at what is a different way forward.
Yes. Change the stimuli. Julie, this has been a pretty amazing and refreshing conversation. And like I said, sometimes these episodes are just as much for me as they are for everybody out there. Before we wrap up, I want to know how everyone can find Big Gorgeous Goals and find and follow you.
You can find the book on my website at julieellis.ca, and you can find me there as well, or on LinkedIn.
And of course, Julie and I are connected. So if you're watching here on LinkedIn, follow both of us. If you need support in understanding what your goals even are, what success looks like for you and to you so that you can figure out a goal, reach out to Julie and I, because this is kind of why we do the work that we do. And I'm so grateful for you joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And all of you out there, I want to ask you and challenge you, are you living up to your potential? Because if there's one thing in this world I love, it is engineering human potential. And I can't let this episode go without asking you all to be honest with yourself on that. You can only do so if you give yourself the space, the honesty, and find out your motivations and take action towards it. What's holding you back? Are you working towards the right goal? How can you get moving? You'll be surprised what big, gorgeous goal you can reach if you do. And if this conversation resonated, please share it with somebody, leave it a 5-star review, because it helps people like Julie and I. And as always, I appreciate all of you and you, Julie, for being part of the No More Mondays community. So thank you one more time.
Thanks.
And to all of you out there, thanks again for joining. Here's to fewer Sunday scaries and no more Mondays. I'll see you again next week.